friends, Lissa here for another video. Today I'd like to talk about the foods I do eat and the foods I don't eat. I've had a lot of questions asking what kinds of stuff I eat, so I wanted to go through that with you on this video. There are so many ways to do a raw vegan diet out there. There's lots of raw foods. Some things people consider okay on a raw vegan diet, some things people don't, but everybody's going to do it their own way, and they're going to find out how their body reacts to certain things and include them or not. It's totally up to you, but I wanted to go through with you guys what I still eat in my diet, what I don't, what's really rare, and all that kind of good stuff. So it's a lot easier to go through what I do eat than what I don't eat, because there are a lot of foods that I don't eat anymore. So we're gonna start with the foods that I do eat. So I eat all fruit. That's pretty much a given. Anything from bananas, citrus, pineapples, tropical fruit, melons, berries, all of it, apples, nectarines, you name it, I will have the fruit. I do also eat a lot of greens. Most of you notice that I eat 2 salads a day. I do a big one for lunch and a big one for dinner. So I eat a lot of greens. My main green is romaine. I eat that quite a bit. And then I will rotate through kale, spinach, butterleaf lettuce, mixed greens. I do dandelion here and there, but I love mustard greens. Mustard greens are my absolute favorite green, and I'll include those with my romaine, but romaine is typically a base. I also do things like bok choy, cabbage, chard, and collards. Any of those greens I like to filter through and keep in my diet here and there. Sometimes I'll go through phases where I'll eat a lot of cabbage or a lot of broccoli, a lot of spinach, maybe just romaine, maybe a huge amount of tomatoes, but it just depends on the season, what's available, what's decently priced, what's organic, what's really good. So it just changes throughout the seasons and throughout my own taste. Sometimes I just don't care for eating cucumbers for a while, and then other times that's all I want to eat. So I just listen to my body, and again, what's in season too really helps, and what's available and what is affordable, because sometimes things are a little bit too expensive, even though you want them, like heirloom tomatoes. Sometimes they're too expensive, even though they're my favorite tomato. I also eat a lot of vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, peas, that kind of thing, that aren't necessarily considered a green, but they're also not considered a fruit. Things like tomatoes, bell peppers, cucumbers, and zucchini, those are all considered fruit, though some people consider them vegetables just because of a tax that was way back in the day where they had to categorize them as vegetables so that the tax would be different on them. But those I eat a lot of. I consider them fruits, and I do eat those on a daily basis. Tomatoes is probably one of my favorites, and I do eat a lot of broccoli. I find that the things like broccoli and cabbage, the more I eat them, the more often I eat them, the easier they are to digest. When I first started including broccoli in the early days, they did cause a little bit of gas, but after time, the more I ate them, the easier they were to digest. And now I can eat lots of broccoli, no problem. The same goes for sprouts. These are another thing that I keep in my diet that I believe are extremely beneficial to raw vegans and anybody actually, is sprouts. Beans are very important, but I find that the majority of people have issues digesting beans. Once they're sprouted, they're easier to digest, but people can still have problems digesting bean sprouts because they may not be including them in their diet often. So if you have issues with bean sprouts, then I would probably experiment with having small amounts more often. So just have a little tablespoon of sprouts in your salad. Then the next day have 2 tablespoons. Maybe do that for a week or two. Up it to 3 tablespoons for a little bit of time, and just see how you go with that. Then eventually you may be able to eat higher amounts of bean sprouts without the same reaction that you would have in the beginning. If you start off with eating a whole cup or 2 cups of bean sprouts on a salad and you haven't eaten bean sprouts in years, then you will probably have a little bit of gut upset because you just don't have the bacteria that enjoy digesting that type of fiber. Raw ferments are another thing that I keep in my diet. I love raw pickles, kimchi, sauerkraut, that kind of thing. They are a wonderful bonus to my salads. I do like to have a huge variety of plant foods. The more variety we have, the better our gut biome. There was a study that I saw circulating around that said those who eat 30 or more different plant foods every week have the most diverse gut biome, the better digestion, better immune system, because we have a really good ecology in our guts. So I try to eat as much variety as I possibly can. That would include things like nuts, seeds, herbs, spices, mushrooms, sea vegetables. I try to keep it all in my diet because all of it feeds those good guys. That fiber feeds your good bacteria. We don't digest fiber. Our bacteria does, and our bacteria is so vitally important to our health. This has been studied countless times. So if you guys want to have a good balanced bacteria colony in your gut, you have to work with it. Now, I've mentioned this in quite a few videos that I am not a perfect raw vegan because there are a few things that I keep in my diet that a lot of people consider non-raw. For example, coconut aminos, nutritional yeast, cashews. All nuts are pasteurized before sale to prevent bacterial infections and contamination. So all nuts aren't raw. Even if it says raw on the package, it's not actually raw. It just means it's not salted or roasted. It's a raw nut, but it's not actually raw, like as in raw vegan. But I still keep those in my diet. I don't see a problem with it. I digest them fine. A lot of people want to leave them out, and that's totally cool. But that is still something that I keep in my diet. The coconut aminos used to be a raw food. It's a fermented coconut tree sap. And when it first came on the market, I was working in a health food store and we were ordering the coconut aminos. And every time we would get a box, there would be, out of 12 of them in a box, there would be 8 that were burst. And there was like coconut aminos everywhere. So we would have to send them back. And the company got tired of that because it was a living food. So it was constantly under a state of fermentation. So they had to heat the product to stop the fermentation so that the bottles wouldn't explode in shipping. So unfortunately, it's no longer a raw food, but a lot of raw foodies still keep it in their diet. I do as well. So is miso paste as well. That one can be raw or cooked. Most of them are cooked because they're cooked beans first and then they're fermented, but it becomes a living product. So it's kind of an on the fence kind of thing. I still use miso paste. I also still use nutritional yeast here and there. I'll go through phases. Sometimes I'll eat it every salad. Sometimes I won't have it for a month. So it really depends. Again, we go through phases. More rare things that I keep in my diet, dried foods like kale chips, crackers, croutons, like all raw. Those I still do here once in a while. I don't do them often, maybe once a month, I would say. I'll have a couple. Sometimes it's, 1 week and then the next week and then I won't have it for a month or 2 or 3 or whatever. Or I'll just have a couple bites of kale chips and then that's that. The reason is because I feel more dehydrated when I eat dried foods. I feel like my colon's a little bit tighter. It sucks up a lot of the water and I just don't really enjoy it. I like the taste, but I don't really like how it feels after. So I keep them to a very, very small minimum. Something else that I keep in my diet that's very, very small, once in a while, probably sun-dried olives. I'll have those here and there, or regular olives I'll slice up and put in a salad if I'm doing like a Greek salad, but I haven't had olives in a while. So yeah, those are still things that I keep in my diet, and those are things that I eat. I enjoy my spices. I enjoy my garlic, turmeric, ginger root, and all of that good stuff. So that is what I do eat. The things that I don't eat is a much bigger list. And we all know what those things are. Animal products, oils, processed foods. I don't do anything cooked. So if anything needs to be cooked, I won't be using it in my diet. There are a couple little things that I have had, like soaked oats. I have had those a couple times in the 5 years that I've been raw, and soaked buckwheat. I have had that a couple times when I've made Chris Kendall's raw pizza. We sprouted the buckwheat and used that in the crust. But other than that, I won't do grains, I won't do bread, pasta, cereals, I don't do nut milks. There are raw foodies that do nut milks, and you're more than welcome to make them yourself. Again, they're not raw because the nuts are pasteurized first. So unless you're picking the nuts yourself, it's not a truly raw product, but it is much better than having animal milk. I don't do cooked beans, cooked root vegetables, no potatoes, yams, or anything like that. The reason why I choose not to do potatoes or yams is because I come from a past of food addiction. And I know that every single time that I've consumed a potato or something like that, that's all I think about, that's all I want to eat. And then all of the other stuff kind of takes a back burner. And then all I want to do is eat high fat starches. And I just don't feel good. Even though I crave it, I know that my body doesn't actually want it. It's all in the addiction of it. So there's a fine line between, does your body actually need it, or are you just craving it and you just want it to satisfy some kind of addiction or void that you're feeling, numbness, you're feeling, loneliness, that kind of thing. You really have to kind of ask yourself what you are going through that is making you crave that. And now when it comes to grocery shopping, I spend most of my time in the produce section, the herbs and spices aisle, and the bulk section. That's really all I need to do when I go to the grocery store. It's a quick trip every time, and it's a lot easier. I spend a lot less money because I'm not spending all of this cash on packaged foods, mock meats, cereals, breads, pastas, snacks, all of that kind of stuff. I'm not spending my money on it. I can transfer that over to the fruits, vegetables, organics if I can. I don't always eat organic. That's another question I get asked a lot. I believe organic is the best, but a lot of companies can't even afford the organic label, so they may spray less, but they just can't afford to put organic on them. So it's not always necessary to look for the organic label. Sometimes the small local farms that don't spray very much are just as good as the organics because they are trying to be organic, but they can't afford that little label. So that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, got a little bit of insight into what I eat. I have over 80 what I eat in a day videos, and I'm going to be doing a lot more for you here in the future. So you can check those out on my YouTube channel. You can also find awesome raw vegan recipes at this link right here. I also have these ebooks in print version on Amazon, so you can head down to the description box. All of the links will be down below for you there. You can find me on Instagram at Raw Food Romance, where I am most active. That's the best place to get a hold of me. You can find me on Facebook, Lissa's Raw Food Romance, and on Snapchat, Lissa Raw Vegan. So until the next video, guys, fruit on.